Hello, and welcome to Open Mind UFO Radio. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. If any of you start to join the chat and you have any problems, let me know. In fact, now people are starting to join. Hello. So I'm your host, Alejandro Rojas, and my special guest today is Karen Brard.
Hi, everyone. How are you today?
Isn't she lovely?
Thank you.
She's my honey bun, so I can say that. We got some. Okay, so we have people joining. Let us know if you have any loud and clear, Eric says. Cool. Thanks, Eric. So what we're going to do, Karen runs the International UFO Congress. I run Open Minds TV, credible UFO and UAP news and information. So I'm going to go over some of the news that's gone on during the week and some of the articles that I've written and different interviews and things that I've done. And it's been a crazy week, so we've got a lot to go over. And then we're also going to tell you about the International UFO Congress. And in fact, why don't we start with that? Just real quick, I'll bring up the web page for people to look at. And then in a minute, we'll have Karen go over what this cool tool, because she's got this really cool tool that she found.
Well, it's an app. It's the platform.
Yeah, tell them about it.
Okay. Well, this year, unfortunately, we can't have our in-person conference, so we're doing a live streaming conference. And using, we're using Zoom, but you're not going to be seen on WHOVA. That's the name of it. WHOVA. And what it is, it's a conference platform.
Look, there's you, honey.
Oh, wow. Cool. It's a conference platform which allows more interaction than just a regular live streaming. So people will be able to, once they buy a ticket, they can upload their own information into there. If they want everyone to see them, you can upload your own picture, something about you, contact information. And then once you buy a ticket and you've done that, you can also go and see other people's pictures and contact information, and you can talk to them, and you can make chat rooms. You can also do live meetups. Up to 30 people. You can start your own meetup right there in Hoover, and you send out an invitation or send the link to people, and then they can get in there, and you can all talk in live and see each other. So that's one great feature. Also, there's still an exhibitor room, and there are virtual booths, so you can click into one of the booths and you can see people's products, their pictures, their website information. They can even live stream during the conference, so they can be right there and you can ask them questions. And during the actual lectures, you'll be able to ask questions of the speakers just like you're at a regular conference. So we really think that this platform is going to make it a lot more fun than just a regular live streaming, and you'll get to meet other people from different places, and you'll also get to be able to watch the recorded versions. If you miss any of the recorded version or the live versions, you can go and watch them over again as many times as you want, up to 2 weeks after the event, which is really great. And the exhibitors, you can go, that'll be up for 6 months after the event. So if you see somebody and you like their products and but you forgot who they were, you can go right back on and find them again. So we think it's going to be a really interesting
we'll show you.
It'll be really great.
Yeah, we'll show you the tool in just a little bit, but we'll log in. But we want to also go over some news. So Robert said something funny. Hi, Richard and Tracy. Oops, wrong podcast. That's really cute. Of course, we're friends with Richard and Tracy. In fact, we went to Hawaii with them not too long ago.
That was so fun.
So, and to be honest, actually, Tracy kind of helped me give some advice. Although, originally we've helped each other over the years with all of this stuff, which kind of reminds me, just so you guys know. So this is Open Mind UFO Radio, right? This is the podcast. Every Friday, I'm going to do this newscast live, so you guys can join just like you are now. We can talk about stuff that I've done over the week. But I really would love for you all to help me out by joining Rojas Reports, because that's where my interviews are. And I've gotten some really extraordinary exclusive interviews lately. Nobody else is getting, really, especially related to all the cool stuff that's going on right now in the news, which we're going to be talking about. So I'll talk about those. And of course, honey, as a guest, just like Martin, you're invited to share your opinions and information.
Really?
Where is the news?
Like that.
Would you chill out, Emmanuel? Here we go. We're going to get to the news. He's like, where's the news, man?
Pardon me.
Okay, let's get to some news. But if you really want all of the best, of course, you should go to my podcast or my So let's get in, but I want to show the website a little bit quick here because I want to talk about the news. And I got to stop this screen share. Sorry, technical thing, and bring up this other one. Actually, ooh, you guys are going to get some news. The DoD news is fading now. Is what why might I have had that up? Probably because I'm working on an article, and I think it's going to be a really important one. But let's look at the news here. Here we go. OpenMinds.tv. I'm so happy to have the website back up. As some of you may know, it's been really struggling over like the last year as it slowly died because it wasn't really being taken care of. I didn't host it. That was part of the problem. So now I do, so I can make sure that everything is, up to speed and everything works correctly. So what is the news? First of all, this is something that I'm really proud of. Antonio Huneeus, who some of you are probably familiar with, he used to be a writer with Open Minds. He wrote an article in Open Minds magazine about this interview here. He actually went to a conference and got to meet Colonel Ariel Sanchez of the Uruguayan Air Force. And I don't know that really there's any website that covers, I'm over here looking at the microphone instead of the camera. I don't know that there's any website that really covers international UFO cases like we have. In fact, and the reason I bring that up is the last episode of Unidentified was all about that. So at openminds.tv on the YouTube, I actually have a lecture about international UFO organizations that very much mirrored that episode of Unidentified, but I give more information, including about Ariel Sanchez right here, who started Cridovni, and they were really important. Uruguay was one of the first South American governments to create an official UFO organization. And then they worked with other governments to start them in other countries, in particular Chile. Chile has a really robust program called CFA. As some of you who follow Open Minds are probably aware, because we've had a great relationship with them. We brought General Bermudez to the UFO Congress. We also brought another one of their representatives who I've interviewed, Jose Lay, quite a bit. He used to be their international relations director. So we've got a lot of news here about sightings that you're not going to get anywhere else. In fact, I saw some South American researchers said, hey, this story is amazing. It's got more information. And they miss Antonio. And I miss Antonio, too. He isn't writing for Open Minds anymore. But Karen and I try to go check on him occasionally. And a lot of people have expressed concern since I've been posting his articles again saying, hey, where is Antonio?
But he did make it to our conference last year, which is
he did for a little
surprise,
while.
Actually, we didn't know he was going to show up.
But we'll go check on him soon. We've got to go check on him. We've been trying to take care of him. But so this is a great article. Look for that. I won't get into too much detail. But if you haven't watched that latest episode of Unidentified, one thing that Sanchez did say that we were not aware of, and I don't believe is in our article, is that he claims it was the U.S. government that prompted him to start their UFO investigation organization. So that's pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. Let me look at StreamYard real quick. Hey, Alejandro. So lots of highs. Hello, Rodrigo. Hello, Mr. Mister. Hello, Cartola. Hello, Renee. So, Renee says Tracy enriches his members only. True. And my Rojas reports are members only too. So you can join and become a member of and watch those Rojas reports, which I think are really important. And we'll get into some of the latest ones here in a minute. But the other thing that I've been posting are these UFO crash articles. Oh, don't careful. These UFO crash articles. And the reason why is, of course, the New York Times, in their story about how the Senate Intelligence Committee is asking for UAP reports of military intelligence agencies, they included this information about potential UFO crashes, which is interesting. My fear is that personally, kind of my take in a nutshell, is that we moved from the tenable position that UFOs are a real issue that are taken seriously by the government to this untenable position that there are UFO crashes. Why do I say there's a difference? We have tons of evidence, tons of even the Navy admitting that they take UFOs seriously. We really just have anecdotal kind of hearsay when it comes to UFO crashes. And that's what's kind of difficult. However, there are some good cases out there. And that's why I posted these two stories. One of them, which is about other UFO crashes in the US that I wrote, in particular, Aurora, Aztec, and Kecksburg. Some of you who have been around for a while know about those cases. So, but hopefully you'll find out there's more information in these articles than you may be aware of. But that's what I wrote those about. Otherwise, a lot of people don't know anything about UFO crashes. And that's what these articles are for those people new thinking, hey, what the heck's going on? What's the New York Times talking about? I didn't think Roswell was real and there was anything credible. Well, there are some interesting stories about UFO crashes. So that information's there.
And even if we don't have evidence, it kind of makes sense if there are other places or beings from other places flying around here that at least one might crash.
I don't know. See, I don't think so personally. I don't think so at all. But who knows? I kind of might, and this is pure speculation. I want to make that clear. If there is a crash, I kind of am of the belief that they crashed on purpose. I believe that they wouldn't crash on accident, that perhaps if they did crash a vehicle, it was meant for us to find and to see technology, possibly, if that was the case. But who knows?
But I mean, I'm sure they're traveling millions of miles. They have technical difficulties just like any other beings.
Maybe. But for instance, well, they're with being so advanced and so much travel. I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think anything's foolproof.
Maybe. Also, this article from Antonio, 3 alleged international crashes. And these are pretty shocking. Shag Harbor is one of them that's in here. That's a well-known case as well. It's a Canadian case, but it's really covered thoroughly here. So I think you'll get information that you weren't aware of, even if you know of this case. The other cases, and I'm going to click on this link because I think these cases are really cool. There's another case, a Russian case. That's what this is related to. And that one is really interesting. That deserves a look. And then there's another one. See, like Shag Harbor, UFO crash, Shag Harbor. When I do that voice, it reminds me of that latest Star Wars cartoon, which I loved. Kind of starts off like that. Like
One on Disney
Plus. Yeah, the one on Disney. But here's one in Argentina. This is a really cool one because there was some U.S. government fiddling around this one, and it's very popular in Argentina. It's kind of like Argentina's Roswell. So this might be one that you're not aware of. Not many people are. Here's one of those government documents where they talked about this case, where they kind of got involved. And then finally, here's the one in the Soviet Union that we're talking about. Another great article by Antonio Huneeus. He's really good. So the crashes, what do you think about crashes? Do you think, so you believe there's probably crashes?
I'm not saying there probably is. I'm just saying that I think it's definitely a possibility because I don't think anything is 100% foolproof. And, you know, things can break down. And if something broke down and they, you know, it's not like they have any way to fix it when they're in space. I think, you know, could have happened. Just like sometimes our planes come down, even our, you know, our space shuttle had one time didn't make it. So yeah, I think it's possible. I don't know if we've had any real credible evidence right now, but I think it's possible.
So some people in the chat say maybe they're using ET tech to take down more craft. You know, actually, that's what Tom DeLonge thinks. And I think that it's important to note here, and when we get into the next story, this is going to be important. When it comes to the Stars and all those guys involved, Chris Mellon, who's got this amazing background in government and in the elite, essentially. I mean, he's part of the Mellon family. You know, Lou Elizondo, who worked in intelligence, Tom DeLonge, they don't agree at all on everything. I mean, they all have very different perspectives on things. So when, you know, some people get confused and they think when Tom DeLonge says something that everybody agrees with that, but that's not the case. You know, there are different perspectives. Oh, we can't see you there.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. But Tom DeLonge believes that. Tom DeLonge believes there's maybe some kind of battle going on, and that the government has retrieved their technology. And he even had said at one point that's kind of what's happening now, is that the government's finally able to hold their own in this battle against aliens, and that's why they want to come out with information. I mean, I completely am skeptical of that idea. I don't see we see any of that, but who knows? Could be. Where are you going?
I'm just getting a chair that's not so wide because we're bumping into each other. Our chairs, we can't get close.
Okay, so let's look at this next article though, and that's this top one here. I'm really proud of this article. I've been working really hard on these articles, so I hope you guys appreciate them. And I know that the titles do not indicate that there's anything new. So, for instance, TTSA advisor Chris Mellon tells CNN potential UFO crashes should be taken seriously. If you were not aware of this CNN interview, then that's pretty important. If you are aware of this interview, then you may think, well, okay, I already knew that. But when I go into these articles, I get in more in depth into, and I always add something new to the article, into what's going on. What's new about this? Well, I interviewed Chris Mellon in the Rojas reports. I also interviewed Lou Elizondo and Eric Davis, kind of the main players when it comes to all of this going on with this potential UFO crash thing. In the New York Times article that kind of revealed this potential for UFO crashes, or at least that Eric Davis and Elizondo seem to be convinced of that. I kind of criticized that Elizondo's never said that, but I did confirm with Elizondo that he's cool with, with the way that was framed. And Leslie told me that as well, that, hey, Lou was cool with it. So chill out, essentially. So he is cool with that framing. So he and Davis are convinced. Mellon has not said he's convinced. And he actually spoke out it in CNN. And I think it was great. And it's fair. And this was a part of my fear, which I'm talking about, moving this into the untenable area of UFO crashes. The CNN brought it up. CNN said, hey, this guy, Eric Davis, is saying that there's UFO crashes. What do you have to say about that? Well, what he said was, what I will say about that is that I think that assertion should be taken seriously. I'm aware, I know Eric very well. I understand his arguments. I was present in his briefings on the Hill, and he tried to provide some leads for them to follow to enable them to potentially confirm this. It's an issue that should be taken seriously. So I tried to follow up with Eric Davis. I had an interview last April where Eric Davis came clean and he started talking about UFO crashes, saying why he believes in them. And it was mostly essentially because people with clearances who claim to have worked on these programs told him this was the case. So that's still not firsthand knowledge. And it's kind of what Chris is saying here. Chris is saying, I've heard his argument. I know what he believes. He was able to share that information, share his leads. In other words, these leads, even these Wilson documents that, like Richard Dolan are talking about, that's a potential lead. Of course, people have already followed up with Admiral Wilson. He says it's no go. There's nothing there. But if, really ambitious staffers or people in the Senate want to try to find out more information, at least in a apparently classified setting, Davis was probably able to name names, departments, corporations, or people who may be involved so they can go pursue that kind of stuff. To potentially see if there's something there. And I think that's what this was all about. And kind of what Chris Mellon is saying is, look there. Chris Mellon had already said that unidentified and when they're revealing these cases, it's all about trying to say, hey, we know that there's more there. So when these UAP reports start coming from the military intelligence, these cases that we know about better be in there. And I think essentially what they're saying here is, we think there's UFO crashes. These UFO crashes better be in there too.
Yeah. Actually, I strongly believe that Roswell was a crash.
A crashed alien spacecraft?
Yes.
And what makes you believe that?
Well, the one thing that stuck out in my mind is when I read the book is that for something minor, I don't think the man would have traveled like an hour into town, but his cows would not go into that area of the refuge. He said it was like a mile long. Now that's no balloon. That's not a balloon. And why would the cows, if it was, unless it was something weird or they sensed something weird about it, like maybe radiation or something, why wouldn't they walk through that part? And they had to go all the way around. And he got him really annoyed that he had to do that. So that doesn't sound like a weather balloon. And it sounds like there's something weird about it. And just the fact that, people did come out on their deathbed saying stuff, happened, which is kind of a weird thing to do when you're about ready to die, is tell your family a lie. To me, it doesn't make sense. To me, I think there's something going on in that situation.
Maybe, although I did write an article recently about how Roswell was a cover-up, but and the weather balloon debris.
We do know that.
Yeah, we know that. We know that the weather balloon, those pictures that we got from the press where they showed the debris, that wasn't the debris.
Right.
And how do we know that? The Air Force told us that in their report, that it seems like Ramey was covering up for Project Mogul. The thing is, and one of the main scientists who I quote in this article says, there was no reason for him to do that. In fact, if you read the report, nobody was cleared. It wasn't really the people who worked on the project, these couple of teams from these universities, they were just building these weather balloons, these balloons that would take these devices up in the sky. They didn't know why they were building them. But the point is, the construction, they were very similar to regular weather balloons, and there was nothing secret about that material that was used to build everything. What they were being used for is secret. And what were they being used for? To listen to tremors in the sky, to be able to listen for nuclear weapons testing by Russia in particular is what they were looking for. So, and that report says there's no reason Ramey should have classified it. The other kind of weird thing is that what Jesse Marcel's verbal descriptions of what he saw is very similar to Project Mogul. And that's really tough, including this weird tape with these symbols. Well, these I-beams that he said that were like balsa wood that had weird symbols on them. Well, in Project Mogul, they did use balsa wood, and they had this tape they used with, these little kids' symbols on them. So, I mean, that's pretty coincidental.
So Mogul started before. Well, we don't know exactly when Mogul started, honestly.
Mogul started before. In fact, there was a test that was done in the same time period. Mogul was out of Alamogordo, which was about 80 miles to the west of Roswell. But there was one that they didn't recover that was a bit around that time. So it's really hard. I think that's tough, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, but it doesn't make any sense that these military people would not understand even if there was tape, which could have been there from a previous craft, it just kind of got mixed in with stuff. They know all the other stuff. They wouldn't have gone home and showed their family, look at this, look at this metal that uncurls, and once you crumple it up and then it uncrumples. They would have known what common materials are. And the other thing is, I was actually lucky enough to go on one of Don Schmidt's digs out in the debris field, and we didn't find anything. Well, we found maybe one.
And Don Schmidt is one of the primary Roswell researchers.
Right. We didn't find, a flying saucer or anything, but what we did find in the middle of these fields are tons of rusted old nails, cigarette cases, canteens. And it seemed like, okay, number one, nails. Why would there be nails in the middle of nowhere? And why is there so much stuff? That's kind of, to me, seems like there was a lot of people out there. And the only people who would have been, I'm thinking maybe military men were out there smoking, dropping their stuff, because there's no reason to have nails in the middle of nowhere. I don't know.
Then again, if Ramey was covering up Project Mogul, he might have sent guys out there to retrieve all that material. And that could be why
but
they
why
were
the
out
nails? What is that? do.
Well, at least I think Don Schmidt thinks the nails are out there because they tried to make it harder to find any material. So if you went out there with a metal detector, you would find the nails and not material. So
That's
I
kind
don't
of
know,
silly.
but still, there are not very far away. There's a large pin with a windmill. I mean, there's structures there that were built that no doubt used nails to build those structures.
They were pretty far away from where we were.
And still, that is all circumstantial. I totally am of the belief you need extraordinary evidence when it comes to extraordinary claims, and none of that is extraordinary. But it is, it's potentially interesting. Also, when it comes to Don Schmidt and the bodies, for Open Minds magazine, I had asked Don Schmidt a few years ago to write us an article about the best evidence that there were bodies out there, because I wrote an article for Den of Geek about this, and it wasn't until the late 80s that when Roswell was already getting famous, that people started claiming there are aliens there. So I think that's kind of the claims are kind of rough, but Don did write an article with some of these, like you said, deathbed confessions. There aren't many. I think there's one. And so I'll be posting that article very soon here in the next few days.
And the people did say that they were told, do not tell anybody, and threatened with their lives. So that could also be a reason why people waited until other people came out to talk before they started talking. And, when they see something that happens, sometimes you doubt what you saw as time goes by, and, memories fade a little bit. And especially if you're trying to avoid thinking about it because it scares you, or because the government says they're going to come get you if you talk about it. I can see why, why they wouldn't talk, because we know now that there are secrets. We do know that there was a program that Lou Elizondo was working on, and that didn't get revealed until he came out himself and told us about it.
Yeah, see, a lot of people are making some good points. You can date standard nails to a decade. I don't think that's been done with the nails that they found out there. Robert says, I'd love to know more about the second crash site. It's a bit vague. And this kind of relates to Mr. saying they built crates to haul stuff out there. That's the problem. When it comes to a second site, when it comes to crates, this is all third, fourth, fifth hand information. It's not very substantial, information that we have that any of this actually happened. I think there's a book that Kevin Randall wrote, and I think it's Roswell for the 21st Century, and it's a great book. Now, unfortunately, the way Kevin writes it, you already have to know quite a bit about Roswell to understand it, but I highly recommend this book because he, of course, is a Roswell believer, if I put it that way. He's a great researcher also. I think he's very credible, and he goes down in an unbiased manner and goes witness by witness to say, who's credible anymore? What is credible? We found so many liars when it's come to this case. What is the credible information? And so with his book, you can really kind of put that together. What is the best information regarding Roswell? And he feels that it's still, like you do, essentially similar information, but he feels it still falls on the side of likely something much more strange than Project Mogul.
Right. And I just want to make a point. The things that we were unburying out there were not sitting on the top of the dirt at all. You had to dig several inches down to get any of this stuff. So that also, shows time progression from when they were laid down there. So that also kind of gives some credence to the whole Roswell thing. And
when it comes to Roswell, though, and this is the other hard part, it's probably the best case. And it's still kind of up in the air. So
I'm just hoping one day somebody passes away and the family goes through their things and finds all this stuff, finds some diary that talks about it, or finds a piece of this material. That would be just really exciting.
Yeah, who knows? And of course, there is the memo, which I think is potentially revealing too, which is, in one of those photos. And by the way, if you look at my articles, I typically will link to, nobody's written about this. I've written about it quite a bit, and Kevin Randall is involved with this. The University of Texas has those images, and they have very high quality renders of these images that you can download from their site. And so those are usually what I point to. And they even talk about how, the General Ramey is holding this memo, and there are some words in that memo well, we can't read it yet. Hopefully, eventually someone will be able to crack the code to figure out what it says.
That'd be great.
But there are some indications it could be talking about victims and crashes.
And saucer, I think, is one of the words, I think.
Yeah, I think disc comes off pretty
disc,
well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about saucer. And balloon is in there.
So, I mean,
Fort Worth, Texas.
Sounds pretty suspicious.
We'll see.
What we think is flying around.
Who knows? It's possible. I mean, Kevin, here's Eric Davis right here, and he could prove to be right. So the other last thing I want to talk about is my latest interview. So I interviewed this week Steve McDaniel for the Rojas Report. I haven't posted it on the website yet. I'll hopefully have that up today. And then I'll have the audio up on Patreon hopefully later today too for you all, for those who like to listen to the audio. And I guess I should remind people, if you go to Patreon, you could subscribe to be a pod people, where you'll get access to all the audio versions of the Rojas Report. And then if you subscribe as an interplanetary galactic, you get video access. You can also do that on YouTube now. And not only if you're intergalactic, you get video access and you can join live. On YouTube, you can do that too. You can join and you can get access to the archive videos or access to join live, the Rojas Report, and then ask questions. And I have been in contact with Lou Elizondo. We will be doing the interview soon. I hate to tell you next week because that's what he told me, but he's told me that the last 2 or 3 weeks it's going to be next week. So I can't say for sure when it'll be. He is very busy, and there are a lot of things going on. Someone said this. Go ahead.
Oh, if you become a pod person, are you going to tell your friends, the aliens, and they're going to clone you and get rid of your real body?
Don't tell them that. That was secret.
Darn, you have to tell me these things. How am I going to know unless you tell me?
But someone said, Rodrigo says, I think more is going on behind the scenes in there. And these are New York Times articles are just the tip of the iceberg. Remember, Senator Reid tried access SAPs. So that's a great point, that there's a lot going on in the background. That's what's keeping Lou Elizondo busy. There's a ton going on in the background. That's why I want to get Lou in here to give us a little bit of insight on this. And, you know, there's always been this frustration over the years. What is TTSA doing? Well, they've been extremely busy doing a lot of different things to make the sort of things that we've seen happening, like the Senate taking this seriously. That's what's been going on, besides the television show. But there is a lot going on.
And bureaucracy runs very slowly.
Yeah, that too.
It's unfortunate.
But it's running faster than can be imagined right now. But yeah, Harry Reid did try to get access to SAP projects, and those are essentially special access programs. Those are the black projects. But also, and this is some of the debate. Oh, that gets to Steve McDaniels, and even my interview with Lieutenant Tim McMillan, is that according to Chris Mellon, he had oversight of all those SAPs, so he would know what was there. And he says he has not ran across anything UFO crash related, but it doesn't mean he hasn't ran across any other UFO programs. And everybody seems to be alluding to there were other UFO programs. So maybe we'll find that out.
Mm-hmm. They're just so secretive and so small that they don't even know about each other. So,
but Steve McDaniel, who's in the last Rojas Report, is putting together something called Sky Hub. And maybe I'll even show you just a real quick picture of it because it's really cool. It's essentially what people have been trying to do, put together cameras and stuff in order to be able to detect UFOs. So that's what he's been doing. And I'll show you what it looks like real quick. But you've got to check out the interview. The other thing, though, is not only is he a software developer, he's also has spent years working in intelligence, in particular naval intelligence. So he has I think something like 16 years background in intelligence. So he also understands a lot of what's been going on as far as, all of this stuff with intelligence. And so he had
our friend Ben Hansen just.
Oh yeah, Ben Hansen, because I'm supposed to get on with him in just a little bit here. But and I'll be on the Travel Channel actually in about an hour doing a live stream like this, probably right here with Ben Hansen and Bryce Zabel talking all about all of this. But with Steve McDaniel, that's what we asked. What about these SAP programs? Is it possible that there could be programs outside of government oversight? For the layman, I think for most of you, you'd say, of course there could be. But for those in the know in the government who have been working on this, even people in this industry say likely not. One person, interestingly enough, who agrees that there could be is Tyler Rogaway. But there's a lot of complications around something like that. So I think that's what's really interesting. We're getting access to people who have more information than anybody that we've really had before. And that's exciting. So that's some of what's going on. Go to openminds.tv, of course, to follow all of that. But before we do you have something to show over here?
Let's see. So we're
or here
still selling tickets. Can you just push the sign in there, or the one the link that I sent you?
This is the link.
But that's something different than. Wasn't it before? It had you could log in as John Doe.
This is the John Doe.
It says paranormal. Okay. All right. Well, can they see that? So this is if you're doing a desktop, you would open it up and.
Let me show them.
Okay.
And then you can control it. So what we're going to do now is show you real quick the tool for the UFO Congress and how it works. Just because, a lot of the fun, of course, of the Congress is interacting with people. And this tool allows you to do that.
So this is the website version, the desktop. So you would come to here and you would scroll through these down. So this isn't logged in right now, so you can't see it. But you can see right now through here, you can see the attendees. So let's say this guy, I'm sure it's okay to click on him. Okay, so I think we're just not logged in, but I want to show you from the phone, you can just.
Wait, you can't see it yet.
Okay.
You're going to try to show them your phone?
Yeah, I'm going to try. So you just download the Whova app, and once you log it on, this is is it too glary?
Yeah, you can't really see that.
Well, you can kind of see where there's these different boxes, and you'll be able to click on, if you want to see other attendees, you can see them. If you want to click on the exhibitors, you can click on that, and they'll have unfortunately, I wish I could show it on there. But once you get on an exhibitor, you can go in there and see what products they have. Whatever they've uploaded in there, you can see that. It's there. They might post a video in there, so you can see that. They might actually have a live streaming, so you can go in there. And so vendors, if you're interested, it's really a cool tool. So up until from now all the way until 6 months after the conference, you can sell online through us for just the same amount of money that you're paying for your virtual booth. It lasts 7 months basically, and you can send out an email or just list it right there on your booth. Hey, I'm gonna have a live stream from 6 to 8 or whatever. And then you get on there and you just start talking to people. And however you use your live stream, whether you use YouTube or Zoom or whatever, you can, what was I going to say?
I don't know. So, I mean,
whether you use whatever thing that you use, you can get on there and live stream to your customers. So if you use Zoom, you could allow them to come into your Zoom room and ask questions. And you could have a live talk with them on the screen, you on the screen, whatever way you want to do it.
But let's talk about so the tool you can do, there's even a community tab here where you can talk all kinds of different conversations. You can even start your own topic or group.
Exactly.
And then you can have people come in and you can talk with them. But let's talk about, so we'll give you more information. We'll have more videos about that upcoming. But let's talk about some of the speakers real quick.
Yeah.
Some of you will know MJ Banayas, who I've interviewed before. I think I've interviewed him a couple times. He's doing some great articles on all this stuff. We've become friends with Brian Bender.
Who would have thought? Didn't know he lived in Arizona, but he was he wrote one of the articles that came out in 2017 in December, revealing the program that the government's had. So he's got a lot of knowledge, knows a lot of people. He's a really interesting guy, and he's going to be talking about all this. So
he broke a couple others too, stories the Navy had briefed the Senate. More recently, he was the first mainstream person to break that. The Senate Intelligence Committee was asking these for these UAP reports, and he keeps in contact, so he has new information all the time.
Yeah, and he's a great storyteller. You'll love listening to him. He's just got these great stories, so I think you'll enjoy that.
Chris Bledsoe, which is another rare one. He doesn't do a lot of appearances, but you probably hear about him a lot, so that'll be fun.
He had an encounter, like a first or close encounter of the third degree, maybe even more than that. Back in, what was the year? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Was it in the
I
70s or 80s?
I thought 80s.
Yeah,
I
sounds
don't
about
even
right.
remember.
But so he's got a very interesting story.
But if you click the button here, you can read more about him. And then Tim Brigham, it's great. He's another scientist, PhD.
He was actually, he was a PhD. He was actually a professor for a while. He's not doing teaching anymore, but he is in this in the medical field right now, technology.
So I'll just kind of scroll through. You can see more. We'll be talking about more of these guys. Diana Pasolka, she's super popular right now.
Yeah, wrote a book a couple years ago about UFOs, and she's also an academic. She's a professor, and Kevin Knuth, another professor. So we have some very highly credible and qualified people to talk on the science. In addition, Travis Taylor, another PhD. He's actually got like 5 PhDs, I think. But he's going to talk about what maybe an alien invasion might look like if they, were not friendly. And
yeah,
all
Travis
based
Taylor.
On science. And
did you say from Skinwalker?
I didn't say yet, actually.
Oh.
But yeah, he used to be on a show called Radio City, not Radio City. Rocket City Rednecks. And what it was him and his like brother-in-law and his dad. And they would just go out in the garage and build some fantastic things. Like one thing he built was an Iron Man that he made an arm that was like the Iron Man, and he could like lift a keg of beer with one arm. Just really smart guys doing building stuff. And but now he's on the Skinwalker Ranch show.
Yeah. Someone noted that Nick Pope has been around on Twitter, but Jonathan noted, he and I have been arguing a little on Twitter. Lori Renfield, she was one of the Rendlesham witnesses before the big event happened, and also part of Dr. Greer's disclosure.
Right, yeah, she's going to be talking about what she saw, which was actually before what everybody else saw. So that'll be interesting.
Good old Travis Walton, our buddy. We always have him, and people always want to hear from him.
Yeah, and another person, Kate Thorvaldson, she is a contactee, experiencer. So she's got a pretty interesting story. Apparently, she says there's implants in different parts of her body, and on those parts of her body that supposedly had implants in them, she can take a magnet and put it on against her skin, and it sticks. And she's going to be demonstrating that for us. So very intriguing, interesting, strange.
So you could check out more and at the International UFO Congress.
But we got to mention our good buddies.
Which
so
one?
Stacy and Marianne.
Oh.
Stacy Wright, who is the state director of Arizona MUFON and also the Phoenix director. And yep, there she is.
Those of you who join live, she might be joining live. She joins these videos live a lot. So
and then Marianne they'll both be sharing stories of how going about their UFO investigations, because they're field investigators.
Marianne's a cop,
and she's also a cop. Yeah, she's a tough lady. But
oh no, Stacy is watching. Look, she just texted us. Woo woo.
Shout out to Stacy. I don't know about Marianne. I know she's on her way to Pine Top, so maybe she's listening too. If so, hi Marianne.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, but they'll have some interesting stories also. Oh, really? Did Marianne say she's here?
No, that's Stacy.
Oh, okay.
So she's in watching.
I don't want to leave anybody. Oh, there's Chad Lewis. He actually does his own podcast and does shows, and he's been on a lot of travel channel shows. And he does a lot of ghost hunting, but he also does UFO stuff. So he'll be really interesting to watch. And David Marler, our good friend David Marler.
You know who he looks like? He looks like one of the guys in the movie about the vampires. It was in California. There were like all these cool kids in the 80s.
30 years ago.
Yeah. Something Boys. What was
Bad
that called?
Boys?
Somebody in the chat knows.
Bad Boys? No. Vampire Boys.
I don't know.
Which one does he look like though?
I don't know. He was one that turned into a vampire early on.
Maybe he was him. He's not young anymore.
All right.
Is that it?
I
don't know. Let's look and see. I want to see if there's anything else.
We're about out of time, babe.
Oh no. Okay. Well, but yeah, please go to www.ufocongress.com and you can see all the speakers, the agenda. You can buy tickets there. And right now until Sunday night, till midnight, you can get $50 off. So go before Sunday night so you can get that $50 saving. And I know you're going to have a lot of fun. And we're having 23 different lectures, 20 speakers and 3-4 panels. So we will even have panels, and you'll be able to ask questions just like you do in person. So I think you should come on over to our side and watch our conference.
Yeah, Andrew got it. Lost Boys was the movie.
Lost Boys.
Good one.
All right.
Otherwise, I guess lots of really important articles coming out. I'm working on a really good one now that's, I think, going to be very revealing about the DoD's dealing with all of this stuff. I'm also was recently interviewed on a podcast called Pajama Pants Podcast, where it's this guy Kasem, really cool. He listens. He might be listening to this show, but he does a podcast with the two kids from The Sopranos, Jamie Lynn Sigler and Rob Eiler. So that was a lot of fun. And so keep an eye out for that. Like I said, Elizondo interview coming up hopefully this week. If not, I got another one planned that's going to be really good. So lots of cool stuff coming up. The hits keep coming.
Yeah, and I'm going to have some more videos prepared to help people navigate the if they're still on the fence. I'm going to have some videos that you can go see at International UFO Congress Facebook and our YouTube, which will kind of go into more detail about how you maneuver around in the conference app. And if you want, it's Whova, WHOVA. You can Google that, and they can have some demonstrations right there. So if you're not sure, you can do that too.
All right, and guess what, people?
No,
that's it for the show. So Martin has been, I always end the show with saying adios, muchachos. And Martin's been trying to do that with me. Do you want to try?
Oh, I'll do a different one.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the end of the show. So adios, muchachos.
Au revoir.